Hi, I'm Jason Gore for ThatShelf.com, and we're here to talk about the Vancouver International Film Festival Canadian premiere of Is This Thing On, directed by Bradley Cooper.
Shelf.
So Bradley Cooper has made, I guess now, three features. So he made, his debut was the Stars Born Redux that he did with Lady Gaga. Then he did Maestro, the one about Leonard Bernstein, and then he did this, which stars Will Arnett as essentially a finance guy who's married to Laura Dern. They're having some marital issues. They're in the midst of splitting up. And he sort of finds his way through going to the Comedy Cellar in New York and actually going to open mic nights and finding through comedy just another way in, but also the relationship dynamic he has with his wife becomes all the more complicated with his kids, et cetera, et cetera. There are moments, the way this is shot, and it's shot in a very close, very handheld, very intimate way, almost like you're on stage with Will as he's sort of exploring and stuff. The camera's sweeping around him. There's even his face starts to take on Bradley Cooperian modes. Not in a bad way. He's obviously handsome, and he's sort of always played the goofball in things like Arrested Development. His incredible voice. But here you actually get to see his emotions play out. But it is so clear that Bradley Cooper could have been the lead in this. And I love that he's not. He actually plays a great side character, and he is used sparingly and effectively. But I love the fact that Will Arnett is actually given a chance to showcase here, because it allows the film to take on just another level of distance, frankly, from the movie star making something. Because I think if this would have been Bradley Cooper in the role, it would not have played as role. You would have had that feeling of sort of pushing too far, about too much of a director finding a showcase for themselves. This allows Bradley to sort of step behind the camera a little bit more and allow to elicit these fantastic performances that he gets at Laura Dern and his lead. And I really love this film. I think it's so beautiful and so exquisitely done. It should not work at all. It should be cloying and manipulative and stereotypical. But honestly, it has a sense of something like a When Harry Met Sally. I know that's a real high level, a high bar, but something that you sort of assume is just going to be middling, or at least middle of the road, and just a straight up, generic kind of rom-com kind of thing. And it takes on this other aspect, this feeling that it's doing something familiar and yet unique, something that you expect but takes you in directions unexpected. And it's that sort of film that this is. I really, really think that's an incredibly strong thing. And I get it. There's people who didn't respond to my show. There's people who didn't respond to Stars Born. Maybe they thought it was overpraised. Some people thought that here it is, this sort of incredibly handsome dude sort of making his way. There's an earnestness to his films that I think put people off. I can see it when people like completely hate somebody like Anne Hathaway. But I generally think Bradley Cooper is coming with this from a very fascinating way. He's clearly has a level of humility as a filmmaker, as a writer, and even as a performer that I think is overlooked because he's very handsome and very compelling on screen. But I think directorially he's truly wanting to engage and learn from the best. I know he spent a tremendous amount of time when he was working with Guillermo del Toro to actually get his directorial chops up. Again, I think Maestro is completely underappreciated despite its some of its plaudits. I think it's an exquisitely done film directorially, and I think this film absolutely showcases that. Stars Born felt like the kind of movie I kind of expected him to make. Maestro was a beautiful surprise, but again, so much of him being locked in that character didn't allow people to sort of step back and see some of the directorial choices. And these aren't showy choices. These are eliciting performance choices, about casting decisions, about all these elements of making the story work. So yeah, the camera work in this latest is not dissimilar to the other two. He obviously likes really allowing a full showcase of the performer. That's why the camera's right there. But I think in this case, it's such an intimate story that it really works. The kids are fantastic. Kids in movies are usually obnoxious. Again, I'm thinking the level of somebody like a Wes Anderson that can elicit these sort of precocious children, but not obnoxious. Or better yet, obnoxious when they're supposed to be obnoxious. But there's nothing cloying. There's nothing seeming. It's a naturalism that they're naturally stagey, if that makes any sense. And it's this balance that I think really makes the film work. It wasn't the official closing film of VIFF, but it was the last film to show. And I was extremely excited to get a chance to see it. I know it ended up being the closing after the epic duration of the New York Film Festival. So getting a chance to see it at Vancouver International Film Festival was an absolute delight. And I think the audience really responded to it. For me, it is one of the great films of the season. I really, really enjoyed it thoroughly. And I look forward to audiences responding to it. I think that they will do so extremely positively. And it gives, again, another click. Yes, Will Arnett has been Lego Batman. Will Arnett has been Job on Arrested. He's done all these performances before, but I think this actually gives us a sense to actually see not only his sort of droll comedic range, but also just the way that his performance actually sort of registers. I think he's tonally perfect, just the right amount of sad sack. And yeah, there's other elements of the storyline that doesn't go. We don't really learn much about, how he's balancing his life as the quote unquote the finance guy and actually doing this. But we certainly are focused on the stuff that's important, which is namely his family. I believe him when he cries, and I believe him when he laughs, and it's as simple as that. Lauren Dern is so electrically engaging, attractive in the best sense. We are attracted to her character, even when she's being dour and all of that stuff. I love the dynamic. I love the feeling of the comedy clubs, of finding these sort of disjointed communities that you find within, all sort of working out extremely, extremely well. Absolutely great film. And it's nice to see it. I think Bradley Cooper is firmly establishing himself as, yes, he is this sort of now, actor turned director, but I think that he's doing so with a grace and sophistication that makes other directors need to up their game. For thatshelf.com, I'm Jason Gorber. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, follow us on social media, ring that bell, do all that stuff. We will see you next video. All the best. Take care.